The ship shook violently. Warning lights flashed red across every control panel. Captain Tuck gripped his command chair as another explosion rocked the vessel. "Report," he shouted over the blaring alarms. "Main engine core breach in progress, Captain," replied Officer Mal, her delicate fingers dancing across the ship's controls. Her pale blue skin had turned almost white with fear. "Life support systems failing. We have minutes at most." The Galactic Confederation vessel Harmony was dying. What had begun as a routine mapping mission through an unexplored sector had turned into a nightmare when they passed through an uncharted radiation belt. Now, the pride of the Confederation fleet was little more than a falling rock, plummeting toward the surface of a nearby planet. A planet that made every crew member's blood run cold. "Confirm our position," Tack ordered, his four eyes blinking rapidly in sequence, a sign of extreme stress among his species. "It's as we feared, Captain," said the navigator, a tall, thin Valerian named Lynn. "We are on direct approach to the third planet of this system. Classification: Deathworld, Category 12. A heavy silence fell over the bridge despite the continuing alarms. Everyone knew what that classification meant. Of all the millions of planets charted by the Confederation, fewer than 50 were ranked as Category 12 Deathworlds, planets so dangerous that most spacefaring species couldn't survive on their surface for more than a few hours without special equipment. And they were about to crash land on one. "Do we have any other options?" asked Tok, already knowing the answer. The ship's pilot, a small, reptilian being named Zim, shook his scaled head. "No, Captain. All neighboring systems are too far to reach with our damaged engines. This planet is our only hope." Tok stood up from his command chair. At just over 4 feet tall, he was considered imposing among his own kind. His gray skin was pulled tight over a face that had seen 100 years of space travel. But in his long career, he had never faced a situation like this. "Send a distress signal to Confederation Command," he ordered. "Include all data about our position and trajectory. Then prepare the crew for emergency landing procedures." As the crew rushed to follow his orders, Tok looked at the view screen showing their destination. The planet below was mostly blue, covered in vast oceans, with green and brown landmasses. White clouds swirled in its thick atmosphere. It looked peaceful from orbit, but Tok knew better. This was Earth, home to humans. Tok had read the reports about Earth and its inhabitants. The planet's gravity was nearly 1.5 times what most Confederation species evolved in. Its atmosphere was rich in corrosive oxygen. Extreme weather patterns swept across its surface regularly, and its ecosystem was filled with predators and dangers that would terrify most spacefaring races. But worst of all were the humans themselves. They had evolved in this nightmarish environment, becoming something that seemed impossible to the rest of the galaxy. A sapient species that could thrive in conditions that would kill most others. They were stronger, more durable, and more aggressive than almost any other known intelligent life. And they were still new to space travel, not yet part of the Confederation, not yet fully aware they weren't alone in the universe. "Captain," called out the ship's doctor, a Lumian named Pax. His translucent skin glowed with dim pulses of light as he spoke, the natural way his people communicated. "Many of our crew will not survive long in Earth's conditions. The gravity alone will cause serious problems for at least half of us." "I understand," Tok said grimly, "but we have no choice. Alert medical to prepare emergency adaptive measures. Those who can tolerate the conditions must help those who cannot." The ship entered Earth's atmosphere with a shuddering roar. Fire engulfed the outer hull as they plummeted toward the surface. The pilot fought with the controls, trying to slow their descent enough to survive impact. "Aim for that region." Tok pointed to a mountainous area on a peninsula. "It appears less populated. We must avoid contact with humans if possible." "Confederation protocol is clear," reminded Officer Mal. "No contact with pre-integration species under any circumstances." "I'm aware of protocol," Tok responded. "But our first priority is crew survival. We'll worry about protocols after we're on the ground. The mountains grew larger on the view screen. The ship was coming in too fast, but it was the best they could manage with their damaged systems. "Brace for impact," shouted Tak. The crash was worse than anyone had prepared for. The ship carved a half-mile trench through forest and rock before coming to rest at the base of a steep mountain. Inside, chaos reigned. Many crew members were thrown from their positions. Equipment sparked and smoked. The artificial gravity failed immediately upon landing, subjecting everyone to the full force of Earth's pull. Several of the more fragile crew members collapsed instantly, their bodies unable to function under such strain. Others gasped and wheezed as Earth's oxygen-rich air filled their breathing apparatus. Tak pushed himself up from the floor, his limbs feeling like they were made of lead. "Status report," he managed to say, though even speaking required effort in this gravity. "Hull breached in multiple locations," came a weak reply from somewhere in the smoke-filled bridge. "Life support offline. Communication systems damaged, but the emergency beacon is active." Tak looked around at his crew. Of the 12 different species represented on the Harmony *, perhaps half appeared to be coping with Earth's conditions. The others were in obvious distress. The Lumians were suffering the worst, their crystalline bodies literally cracking under the pressure. "Dr. Pax, focus on the most critical cases," Tak ordered. "Engineering team, seal any hull breaches and restore what systems you can." "How long until rescue?" asked Lin, the Valerian navigator. He was barely standing, his tall frame bent under Earth's pull. "The nearest Confederation outpost is at least 14 standard cycles away," Tak answered honestly. "If our beacon is working, they'll come as fast as they can." 14 cycles, nearly 3 Earth weeks. Tak knew many of his crew would not survive that long. Outside, Earth's weather was turning against them. Dark clouds gathered overhead, and rain began to fall, water mixed with atmospheric pollutants that stung the exposed skin of those near the hull breaches. The temperature was dropping rapidly as night approached. "Captain," called one of the sensor operators who had managed to get a terminal working, "I'm detecting an approaching life form, moving on foot through the forest. Based on size and thermal signature, it's almost certainly human." Tak felt a chill that had nothing to do with the dropping temperature. Their worst fear was becoming reality. They were about to have an unauthorized first contact with a Deathworld species. "Everyone remain calm," he ordered. "Remember your training." Through one of the breaches in the hull, they watched as a figure emerged from the tree line. It was tall by Confederation standards, nearly 6 feet in height. It walked upright on 2 legs, covered in some kind of protective clothing, with a pack on its back. A communication device was held in one hand. The human stopped at the edge of the crash site, staring in obvious shock at the damaged spacecraft. Then it did something unexpected. It put away its communication device and raised both hands in what seemed to be a universal gesture of peace. "Hello," called out the human in a language none of their translators recognized. "Is anyone hurt? Do you need help?" Tak made his decision quickly. Protocol would have to wait. Survival came first. "Activate the universal translator," he told his communications officer. "And let's hope it works on human languages." The human was moving closer now, carefully picking his way through the debris field. It was a male, they realized, young by human standards. His face showed concern rather than fear or aggression. "I am Park Ranger June," the human said, now close enough that they could see his features clearly. "I saw your ship come down. Are there survivors?" The translator crackled to life, converting his words into standard Confederation speech. It then reversed the process, projecting Tak's response in human language. "I am Captain Tak of the Galactic Confederation vessel Harmony *, he replied, stepping forward despite the crushing gravity. "We have many injured. Our ship is severely damaged." The human, June, stared in amazement as the translation technology worked. Then, to the shock of every crew member watching, he smiled. "You're aliens," he said simply. "Real aliens. And you need help." Instead of running away in fear, instead of calling for his military, instead of any of the dozen responses the Confederation had predicted from first contact with humans, Joan just nodded as if making up his mind. "I have medical supplies in my pack," he said, already shrugging it off his shoulders. "And I can call for more help. There's a storm coming. We need to get your people to safety." Tak looked at this human. This creature born on a death world, stronger and more durable than most of his crew would ever be, and saw not the monster that Confederation reports had led him to expect, but a rescuer. He realized then that the real first contact with humans had begun, and nothing would be the same after this day. June worked quickly. The rain was falling harder now, and some of the alien crew members seemed to be in pain when the droplets touched their skin. He removed his jacket and held it over a small blue-skinned alien who was shaking badly. "Your people can't stay here," he told Captain Tak. "The storm will get worse. Can any of you walk?" Tak looked around at his crew. About half were managing to stand in Earth's heavy gravity, but the others lay where they had fallen after the crash. "Many of us are not built for this planet's conditions," Tak explained. "Some species in our crew cannot tolerate your atmosphere or gravity." June nodded, his face serious but calm. He pulled out his phone. "I'm calling my sister," he said. "She's a doctor at the military base 20 kilometers from here. She can help." Tak felt a moment of panic. "Military? Your government must not know about us yet. The protocols." "My sister is trustworthy," June interrupted. "And right now, you need medical help more than you need secrecy." Before Tak could argue further, Jun was speaking rapidly into his device in his native language. The ship's translator picked up fragments. "Emergency. Foreign visitors. Need medical help. Keep it quiet." While he spoke, Officer Mal approached Tak. "Captain, the ship's environmental systems are beyond repair. The Lumians will not survive more than a few hours in these conditions." Tak knew she was right. The crystalline bodies of the Lumian crew members were already showing stress fractures from Earth's gravity. And the Valerians, with their methane-based biology, were struggling to breathe even through their emergency filters. June finished his call and turned back to them. "My sister Sue will come. She's bringing her friend Hyun, who works in engineering. They'll bring supplies and transport. We need to move your most injured people to shelter first." "How can we trust you?" asked Lin, the Valerian navigator, his tall body hunched over in pain. June looked at him directly. "Because you have no choice, and because helping others is what humans do." For the next hour, they worked to prepare the most vulnerable crew members for transport. June showed surprising knowledge of basic first aid, though he had clearly never treated aliens before. He helped stabilize broken limbs and applied pressure to wounds, always asking permission before touching anyone. "The storm is getting worse," Jun said, looking up at the darkening sky. "We need temporary shelter until Sue arrives." Without waiting for a response, he moved to the edge of the clearing and began gathering fallen branches. The aliens watched in amazement as he quickly constructed a simple lean-to against the side of their damaged ship, using his emergency survival kit to secure the structure. "It's not perfect," he said when finished, "but it will keep the rain off." They had just moved the most critical patients under the shelter when they heard the sound of vehicles approaching. Moments later, 2 large black trucks pulled up at the edge of the crash site. A woman jumped out of the first vehicle, carrying several medical cases. Behind her, a man unloaded equipment from the second truck. "June." The woman called out. "This must be Sue," Tak realized. She stopped abruptly when she saw the aliens, her eyes widening. But to her credit, she recovered quickly and moved forward. "I'm Dr. Sue," she said through the translator. "And this is Hyun. We're here to help." Hyun was staring open-mouthed at the crashed spaceship. "Incredible," he whispered. Then he too seemed to snap into action, grabbing his equipment and moving toward them. "Thank you for coming," Tak said formally. I am Captain Tak of the Galactic Confederation. We have injured crew members who require immediate assistance. Sue nodded and knelt beside the nearest injured alien, a Lumian whose skin was barely glowing now, a bad sign. I've never treated non-humans before, she admitted. You'll need to tell me about your physiologies. The ship's doctor, Pax, moved forward painfully. I can help guide you. Our species are very different from yours. Over the next few hours, Tak watched in amazement as the three humans worked tirelessly to help his crew. Sue moved from patient to patient, adapting her medical knowledge to treat completely alien biologies. Hyun, the engineer, quickly figured out how to repair some of the portable life support units, giving the most vulnerable crew members a fighting chance. And Jun, who had first found them, seemed to be everywhere at once, building better shelters, retrieving supplies from the ship, and somehow keeping everyone's spirits up with his calm presence. Most impressive to Tak was how the humans endured conditions that his own crew found unbearable. The storm had intensified, bringing winds that bent trees and rain that fell in sheets. The temperature had dropped further, and the darkness was nearly complete except for their emergency lights. Yet the humans worked through it all as if it were merely an inconvenience. At one point, part of their shelter collapsed under the weight of the rain. Without hesitation, Jun ran out into the storm to fix it, exposing himself to the downpour that contained chemicals irritating even to human skin. Tak saw the red welts forming on Jun's hands and face, yet the human didn't complain once. Your people are remarkably durable, Tak commented to Sue as she checked his vital signs. She smiled slightly. We're just doing what needs to be done. Nothing special. But it was special to the aliens. The Confederation classified humans as dangerous because of their physical capabilities and supposedly aggressive nature. Yet here were three of them, using those same capabilities to save rather than harm. After 6 hours of continuous work, they had established a secure area for the injured. Hyun had even managed to connect some of the ship's power cells to portable heaters, creating warm spaces for the crew members who needed higher temperatures. The most critical patients should be moved to our facility, Sue told Tak. We've prepared a secure building at the base where we can set up proper equipment. No one else will know you're there. You're risking much to help us, Tak said. Your own people might not approve of hiding aliens. Hyun, who was adjusting a breathing apparatus for one of the Valerians, looked up. What would they have us do? Let you die? That's not who we are. As they prepared to transport the first group of injured aliens, an urgent call came from the lookouts they had posted near the ship. Captain, the radiation levels are rising rapidly. The engine core stabilizers are failing. Tak felt cold fear. If the ship's damaged engine core went critical, the resulting explosion would contaminate the entire area, possibly killing everyone, humans included. We need to get everyone away from here, he told the humans urgently. Our power core is unstable. Instead of panicking, Hyun stepped forward. Let me see it. I might be able to help. Impossible, said the ship's engineer. You don't have the knowledge of our technology. Try me, Hyun replied simply. Against his better judgment, Tak allowed Hyun to examine the failing power core. The human studied the alien technology for only minutes before nodding to himself. It's not so different from experimental fusion systems I've studied, he said. The containment field is collapsing, but if we can reroute power from the auxiliary systems. Working side by side with the ship's engineer, Hyun somehow managed to stabilize the core. His hands moved with surprising confidence over technology he had never seen before. When they finally stepped back, the radiation warnings had stopped. How did you do that? Asked the ship's engineer in disbelief. Hyun shrugged. Engineers think alike, I guess. When something breaks, you figure out how to fix it. By morning, they had moved all the critically injured aliens to the secure facility Sue had prepared. It was a small research building at the edge of the military base, officially listed as a quarantine area for a fake contagious disease outbreak, enough to keep curious personnel away. Tak stood beside June, watching as Sue and her medical team worked to save the life of a Lumion crew member whose crystalline body had fractured under Earth's gravity. "I don't understand," Tak said quietly. "The Confederation has always believed that humans were dangerous because of your world and your physical adaptations to it." June looked thoughtful. "Maybe what makes us dangerous is the same thing that makes us good at helping. We evolved on a challenging planet. That taught us to be resourceful and to work together to survive." Tak watched as Hyun rigged an anti-gravity field using parts from their ship combined with Earth technology, something Confederation engineers would have declared impossible without specialized tools. "Your people adapt quickly," Tak observed. "We have to," Jun replied simply. "Our world doesn't give us much choice." For the first time since the crash, Tak felt genuine hope. His distress signal would eventually bring a Confederation rescue ship. But until then, they had found allies on this death world. Allies whose dangerous evolution had created not monsters, but helpers with exactly the skills needed to save his crew. The term Deathworlder no longer seemed like a warning label to Tak. Perhaps, he thought, it was more of a badge of honor. 8 days passed since the crash. Most of the alien crew were now stable, thanks to the tireless efforts of the 3 humans. Sue had worked medical miracles, treating species she had never seen before. Hyun had built makeshift life support systems that kept the most vulnerable aliens alive. And Jun had become the bridge between the aliens and the small group of trusted humans now helping them. Captain Tak sat with Jun outside the secure facility, looking up at the night sky. Earth's thick atmosphere made the stars look different than they did from space, but Tak could still point out the direction where his homeworld lay. "Our rescue fleet should arrive soon," he said. "The distress beacon has been active for 8 Earth days now." June nodded. "Will you be in trouble for making contact with us? You mentioned something about protocols." Tak sighed, a gesture he had picked up from the humans. "The Confederation has strict rules about first contact with developing worlds. Normally, we wait until a species has achieved certain technological milestones before revealing ourselves. And we haven't reached those milestones yet." June asked. "You're close," Tak admitted. "Perhaps 50 of your years away. Your development has been unusually rapid." Inside the facility, they could hear Hyun laughing with Ril, a methane-breathing Valerian who had become his friend. Despite not being able to breathe the same air, they had developed an elaborate system of signs and gestures to communicate when the translators weren't available. "I think we were wrong about humans," Tak said quietly. "The Confederation classified your species as potentially dangerous because of your physical capabilities and aggressive history. But we failed to see your capacity for compassion and adaptation. We're just people," Jun said simply. "Like you. Different, but the same in the ways that matter." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden flashing light from Tak's communication device. "What is it?" asked June. Tak's 4 eyes blinked rapidly in sequence. "A Confederation fleet has entered your solar system. They will reach Earth orbit within hours." The news spread quickly among both aliens and humans. Sue immediately began preparing the injured aliens for transport, while Hyun worked to compile all the technical data they had gathered about the crash. "Will your people take over now?" Sue asked Tak as she checked the vitals of a recovering Lumion. "Yes," Tak replied. "But I want you all to know how grateful we are. Without your help, most of my crew would not have survived." Sue smiled. "It's what any doctor would do." But Tak knew that wasn't true. The level of adaptation and innovation these humans had shown went far beyond normal medical practice. Sue had created entirely new treatment protocols for alien biologies in days, something that would take Confederation medical experts years of study. 3 hours later, they received the first direct communication from the approaching fleet. "This is High Commander Vex of the Confederation Rescue Fleet to Captain Tak. We have detected your emergency beacon and will reach your position shortly. Please confirm your status and the condition of your crew." Tak responded, detailing the crash, their injuries, and most importantly, the help they had received from the local humans. There was a long pause before High Commander Vex replied, and when he did, his tone was cold. You have violated Confederation Protocol 7B regarding contact with pre-integration species. This is a serious breach that will require immediate containment. Stand by for landing coordinates. June, who had been listening to the translated conversation, looked concerned. What does containment mean? Tak hesitated. Standard procedure would be to remove all evidence of our presence, including erasing the memories of any locals who made contact. Erasing our memories? Hyun asked, having joined them. Is that even possible? The Confederation has methods, Tak said uncomfortably. But I will not allow that to happen to you three or the others who helped us. I will speak to Commander Vex personally. 2 hours later, 3 Confederation ships landed in a remote area 50 kilometers from the military base. Within minutes, heavily equipped medical teams and security personnel were transported to the facility. The humans watched in amazement as the new aliens arrived. Unlike Captain Tak's diverse crew, these newcomers were all from the same species. Tall, imposing figures in uniform environmental suits that hid their features. High Commander Vex strode directly to Tak. Report, Captain. Tak stood straight despite the pain it caused him in Earth's gravity. My crew has survived thanks entirely to these humans. Without their intervention, we would all be dead. Vex's attention turned to Jun, Su, and Hyun. You three have knowledge that your species is not yet prepared for. This creates a serious problem for the Confederation. With all due respect, Su said, stepping forward, we saved lives. Where is the problem in that? The problem, Vex replied coldly, is that your planet was not scheduled for first contact for another 50 years. Your species has a history of violence and territorial aggression. The Confederation cannot risk premature exposure. Hyun crossed his arms. So your thank you is to wipe our memories. It is standard protocol, Vex stated. I refuse to allow it, Tak said firmly. These humans risked everything to save us. They have shown nothing but kindness and ingenuity. They deserve recognition, not memory erasure. The tension in the room was thick. The Confederation security team shifted nervously, hands near their weapons. This is not your decision, Captain, Vex said. The protocols exist for good reasons. Your protocols didn't save my crew, Tak countered. These humans did. The argument might have continued, but at that moment, all their communication devices began buzzing with urgent alerts. One of Vex's officers approached rapidly. Commander, we have a situation. Earth's governments have detected our vessels in orbit. Their military forces are on high alert worldwide. Multiple countries have launched aircraft to investigate. Vex's posture changed immediately. How is this possible? Our ships are shielded against their detection technology. Jun cleared his throat. Not anymore. They're not. Hyun modified some of our satellite systems using what he learned from fixing the Harmony communications array. All eyes turned to Hyun, who shrugged. I figured your people might try something like memory erasure. We needed insurance. Instead of the anger they expected, Commander Vex made a sound that might have been a laugh. You adapted our technology and used it against us in just 8 days. Like I said, Tak told him. We were wrong about humans. The next few hours were chaotic. With Earth's governments now aware of alien ships in orbit, the Confederation's carefully planned first contact timeline was in ruins. Emergency communications flew between the fleet and Confederation headquarters. Finally, Commander Vex returned to where the humans and Tak waited. The Confederation Council has made a decision, he announced. Given these exceptional circumstances, we will initiate formal first contact procedures with Earth immediately. And the memory erasures? Tak asked. No longer an option, Vex admitted. Too many people are already involved. Instead, you three will serve as Earth's first official representatives to the Confederation. Jun looked stunned. Us, but we're not politicians or diplomats. No, Vex agreed. But you understand us in ways no one else on your planet does. You have proven yourselves capable of dealing with alien life forms compassionately and intelligently. The Confederation needs humans like you to help ease this transition. The next day, leaders from Earth's major nations gathered for an emergency meeting. The news of alien contact had spread globally, causing both excitement and fear. But surprisingly to the Confederation representatives, there was more curiosity than panic. June, Sue, and Hyun sat beside Captain Tak and Commander Vex as they addressed Earth's leaders. Tak told the story of the crash and how the three humans had saved his crew. The beings before you, Tak concluded, represent the best qualities of humanity. They saw past our differences and helped us when we were in peril. If they are examples of your species, then the Confederation welcomes Earth's eventual membership. After the meeting, Jun found a moment alone with Captain Tak. Everything is happening so fast, Jun said. Just 9 days ago, I was a park ranger worried about hikers getting lost. Now I'm helping introduce Earth to the galaxy. You were ready for this, Tak told him. More ready than the Confederation realized. What we saw as dangerous traits in humans, your adaptability, your physical strength, your problem-solving under pressure, are exactly what make you valuable allies. As they watched the sun set over the mountains where they had first met, Jun smiled. You know what's funny? You crashed on Earth and thought it was a disaster. But maybe it was actually the perfect place for you to land. Tak's 4 eyes blinked in agreement. Perhaps the universe has wisdom that exceeds our protocols. In orbit above them, Confederation ships maintained position, visible now to Earth's telescopes and radar systems. The secret was out, and there was no going back. Humanity had officially joined the galactic community 50 years ahead of schedule, all because a ship full of aliens in peril had witnessed the bravery of Deathworlders. 6 months passed since the day the Harmony crashed in the Korean mountains. Earth had changed forever. People everywhere now knew they were not alone in the universe. Some were afraid, but most were excited about the new possibilities. June stood on the observation deck of the Confederation diplomatic vessel Unity *, looking down at Earth. From space, his home planet looked peaceful. Blue oceans, white clouds, and green-brown land. It was hard to believe that most aliens saw it as a dangerous death world. Beautiful, isn't it? Said Captain Tak, joining him at the viewport. In the months since the crash, Tak had become Earth's strongest advocate in the Confederation. I never thought I'd see it from space, June admitted. When I was a park ranger, the highest I climbed was Mount Hala. Tak's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of amusement. And now you're Earth's first ambassador to the Confederation. Life changes quickly. Indeed it had. After the initial shock of first contact, Earth's nations had come together remarkably well to handle the new reality. June had been chosen as the main human representative because of his experience with the crash survivors. His calm nature and quick understanding made him perfect for the role. Sue now led Earth's first xenomedicine program, teaching human doctors about alien biology while learning from Confederation medical experts. And Hyun had become the star of a joint engineering team, combining human creativity with advanced alien technology. But not everything had gone smoothly. The Lunian delegation is still uncomfortable with our gravity simulators, Jun said. They say the field fluctuations are too irregular. They're used to perfection, Tak replied. The Confederation has had thousands of years to refine its technology. Your people have adapted in months. It's unprecedented. That was the word many aliens used to describe humans. Unprecedented. Their ability to learn and adapt to new situations shocked the older Confederation species. What took most alien civilizations decades, humans accomplished in weeks. Some saw this as threatening. Others, like Tak, saw opportunity. Their conversation was interrupted when Hyun burst onto the observation deck, his face excited. They approved it, he announced. The council actually approved our mission. June turned to him in surprise. Already? I thought the review would take at least another month. The emergency on Lumia Prime changed their minds, Hyun explained. They need immediate help, and our proposal was the only viable option. Tak's expression grew serious. It's still extremely dangerous. The Confederation has never attempted anything like this before. That's why they need us, Hyun said simply. The emergency on Lumia Prime had begun 3 days earlier. The Lumian homeworld, with its crystal cities and delicate inhabitants, faced extinction. A rogue comet had been detected on a collision course with the planet, too large to be destroyed by conventional means. The Lumians, with their fragile crystalline bodies, could not evacuate in time. The Confederation Council had been debating solutions for days without success. Then Hyun, working with a team of human engineers, had proposed a radical plan. They would not try to destroy the comet. They would move it. The human team leaves in 6 hours, Hyun continued. Sue is already preparing the medical supplies. June nodded. I'll inform Earth's leadership. They should know their people are about to attempt something the Confederation considers impossible. Later that day, June watched as a specially modified Confederation vessel prepared for departure. 20 human volunteers stood ready, led by Hyun and Sue. They wore custom environmental suits designed for the extreme conditions they would face. Commander Vex approached June at the launching bay. In the months since first contact, the stern commander had developed a grudging respect for humans. Your people understand the risks, he asked. The radiation levels near the comet are lethal to most species. The physical stress of the gravitational forces would crush Confederation pilots. They understand, Jun replied. But humans have always been willing to risk their lives to save others. It's part of who we are. Vex made a sound that might have been admiration. Perhaps being from a death world has its advantages after all. The mission was both simple and impossibly complex. The humans would pilot the ship close to the massive comet. There, they would deploy specially designed gravitational anchors, technology Hyun had helped develop by combining Confederation science with human ingenuity. The anchors would create a directed gravitational field, gradually altering the comet's trajectory enough to miss Lumia Prime. The catch: the ship would have to maintain position dangerously close to the comet for hours, exposing the crew to radiation and gravitational forces that would kill most Confederation species instantly. For the next 3 days, Jun and Tak waited anxiously for updates. The mission communications were delayed and sporadic due to interference from the comet. Finally, on the 4th day, a message came through. Anchors deployed. Trajectory shift confirmed. Lumia Prime is safe. Cheers erupted throughout the Confederation vessel, but the celebration was short-lived when they received the next transmission. Ship damage. Life support failing. Request immediate extraction. The rescue mission launched within minutes. June insisted on going along, despite the protests of Confederation safety officers. 6 hours later, they reached the damaged vessel drifting near the now diverted comet. What they found inside amazed even Tak, who thought he understood humans by now. All 20 crew members were alive. Though many were injured, they had survived by sealing off sections of the ship as life support failed, crowding together in the few areas still habitable. When even those systems began to fail, they had taken turns sharing the remaining functional environmental suits. Sue had organized a rotation, ensuring everyone got enough oxygen. Hyun had rigged emergency repairs that defied Confederation engineering principles but somehow worked. And when radiation began leaking into their last safe area, the humans had used their own bodies as shields to protect the most vulnerable team members. As they were brought aboard the rescue ship, the humans were exhausted, radiation burned, and suffering from the effects of extreme gravitational exposure. But they were alive, and more importantly, they had succeeded. Lumia Prime and its billions of inhabitants would survive. How? Tak asked Hyun as the medical team treated his radiation burns. How did you all survive conditions that our scientists said were unsurvivable? Hyun smiled weakly. We're Deathworlders, remember. Our bodies can take more punishment than you thought. and were stubborn. A week later, the Confederation Council held a special ceremony. For the first time in its long history, the Council awarded its highest honor to members of a species that wasn't yet a full Confederation member. In front of representatives from 100 different worlds, the human team stood proud. Their injuries were still visible, radiation burns that would leave permanent scars, muscle damage from the gravitational forces they had endured. But they stood tall in Earth's heavy gravity, something that impressed the watching aliens almost as much as their bravery had. The Lumian Prime Minister, a delicate crystalline being who shimmered with gratitude, addressed the assembly. The humans call their homeworld Earth. We called it a death world, believing that any planet that could produce such physically powerful beings must be dangerous. We were wrong. It is not their strength that defines them, but how they choose to use it. After the ceremony, Jun found himself speaking with a group of young aliens who were eager to learn about humans. "Is it true that you can break your bones and still keep fighting?" asked one, a small reptilian being. "Is it true that you expose yourself to radiation to save others?" asked another. Jun smiled. "We're not superheroes. We're just people who evolved on a planet that challenged us. It made us adaptable." Later, Jun, Tak, Su, and Hyun gathered in a quiet observation room, watching as ships from across the galaxy came and went from the Confederation hub. "Things are changing," Tak observed. "Before your people joined us, the Confederation was set in its ways. Now there are human crews on emergency response vessels throughout the galaxy." Su nodded. "They call us the Deathworlders, but it's no longer an insult. It's become a term of respect. And fear, sometimes," Hyun added. "Some species still don't understand us." "They will," Jum said confidently, "because what they're seeing isn't just human strength or human durability. They're seeing human compassion. That's the real lesson from our death world. We learn to help each other survive." As they spoke, a new ship docked at the station, the first vessel built jointly by Earth and Confederation engineers. Its crew was mixed, with humans working alongside aliens from a dozen different worlds. Its mission: to explore unknown regions of space, facing dangers that would have been considered too risky before. On its hull, beside the Confederation symbol, was Earth's new emblem, a simple blue and green circle with a phrase written below it in multiple languages. "From challenge comes strength. From strength comes compassion." The Deathworlders had joined the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same.